Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 2, recorded on 28th of January 2023. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Norbert.
And I'm Leo.
We'll get right on with it then. Originally we was going to talk about a point of contention, at least in recent months, was an article that OMG Ubuntu put out back in I think September, talking about Canonical adding Ubuntu Pro related messages in the terminal when running apt. And uh, true to form, immediately the outrage massive caught wind of that and called it what they thought it was, which was ads in the terminal, and
But it is an ad in the terminal, though. It is that.
I
Yeah, a lot of
suppose you could, if you was looking at it technically, but I mean,
But technically correct is the best kind of correct, Bill.
but when I first heard about it, the first thing that popped in my mind is, well, yeah, they're just gonna stick a message in there and then forget about it for 3 years, just like they do with Ubuntu Server. That same micro Kates message has been showing up since I think 20.04. So it's just
yeah, a
something
lot
you
of
just learn
people
to ignore.
yeah, a lot of people who were justifying it said it's not really an ad because it's not really trying to sell you something. It's like a public service announcement, or I hope that's the right word. But well, I would call it ad. I would call it advertising because they are advertising one of their services, a
Yeah, I
free
mean,
tier of their services, one of the services because for home users it's free. But you calling it an advertisement is not inherently bad, I think, because Ubuntu is a company made distribution,
And that's
so I
the
don't
crux
think
of it
it's out
right
of
there.
place.
it doesn't even matter if they're a company. I don't care if they're a company. I don't care if they
Yeah,
make
so
money off
I
of their
yeah,
Linux.
but
And
because
an ad is not always bad. It's just information for you that they want you to have. Whether or not you pay for it is irrelevant, I think.
yeah, but because they are a company, I don't think it's out of place. Well, someone argued that if it was advertising Ubuntu Pro in Debian, that would be a different thing
That would
because
be a
Debian is
way
a
different
yeah,
conversation because
yeah,
there's way different goal sets in mind for these two distributions. Ubuntu is a company, and as such, they've got a commercial imperative that they
But
have to
again, even
keep in
if
mind.
Debian was like, hey guys, we have a second type of ISO spin that you should check out just in case you have newer hardware, what would be wrong with that?
No, I wouldn't have a
yeah.
problem with that. But then again, I
What if,
don't get
how
excited over
about
these.
this? What if Debian put in, hey, we need funding. Here's the link to our what is it, Open Collective or whatever
Mm.
the FOSS give me money thing is. What if they put that in there?
I mean, Wikipedia does the same, and people are not really complaining about Wikipedia.
Okay, people
Wikipedia
don't
is up.
complain about Wikipedia, but they meme the hell out of Wikipedia for that one. Have you not seen the
Yeah,
his name
I've
is like
seen.
Jeremy or whatever, and it just got like more over the top and more over the top and more over the like. That's fine. You can criticize things like that, but it's the what is it? Stop doing what you're doing. That is absolutely wrong. Never do that again. That's over the top, man. That's too much. Like they're gonna do
Yeah,
what
Well,
they're
yeah, I
gonna
was
do.
gonna say, is part of this just because it's canonical,
It
and
is. Yes, it
and
is.
anything canonical does is gonna be scrutinized at least slightly differently than if anybody else would have attempted it.
Well, I think Red Hat would get it too. I think they would be like, "Oh, the IBM overlords are reaching into the
Oh,
pot again."
you
I
know that's.
guarantee it. I guarantee it.
But I don't know if we would be as outraged though. I mean, because it just you almost expect now that IBM owns Red Hat that they would make it. I mean, it's surprising they haven't made decisions like that.
Hmm.
Um,
as far as I know, the Fedora project has so they are sort of what's the word? Sovereign. So
yeah,
Red Hat doesn't have as much say in Fedora as they think they have, but as people think they have. But because Red Hat gives a lot of money to Fedora for development, some things like the patent issue, those are just those extreme cases where they they have to do what Red Hat says. But when it comes to like features or services, Fedora is advertised as a community project. So Red Hat RHEL to Fedora is what Ubuntu is to Debian, in my opinion, because Debian and Fedora are community projects, even though they are both funded. The development is heavily funded by the downstream, Canonical and Red Hat. I'm saying that Red Hat is a downstream of Fedora because packages go from Fedora to Red Hat. Uh,
Fedora to CentOS to Red Hat.
yeah, technically, yeah. So
There's some nuanced differences, I think, because you don't have a lot of regular users using Red Hat, whereas
Right. And
Ubuntu is probably.
Bill, I think that's a good point because most I would think when you're getting into running these CentOS and Red Hat servers and things like that, you're getting into orchestration, and you never actually
Yeah.
see DNF upgrade. Nobody ever actually runs that command on one single server, so there would be no point in putting it there. You wouldn't see it except for if you were testing on a single machine. But let's get something straight. Bill, you had tested it, and you said that you did not get the message.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I downloaded the ISOs for Ubuntu proper 22. Well, I started with 22.10 and installed it, just the default way, and it just gave me a clean, I mean, completely clean terminal experience.
and this is when you did apt-get upgrade, right?
I tried both apt and apt-get, and I got nothing on either one of them.
Okay,
So,
so and you tried what else?
and then I tried 22. I thought, well, maybe it's an LTS thing, so I went with 2204, and I didn't get it there either. So,
Ah, well, so I'm running 2004 on a WireGuard server, and I did just now get it.
okay, so
Um,
the server installs, I get the micro Kates message.
okay, well, okay, there are two types of messages that they give. The first type of message is the message of the day type when you log in to a shell, whatever that is, whether that's over secure shell, SSH, or whether that's logging directly into the server, whatever it is. So the message that I got this time was obviously all the system information, RAM usage, IP addresses, and all that. But then I also get under an asterisk, strictly confined Kubernetes makes edge and IoT secure. Learn how MicroK8s just
That's
raise
the
the
one I'm
bar for
talking about.
easy, resilient, and secure K8s cluster deployment. And
Yeah.
then you get the URL ubuntu.com engage secure Kubernetes at the edge. Oh no, Linux OTC is advertising. Oh no. And
no, so
now,
so you didn't get the Ubuntu Pro one.
wait, hold on. No, I didn't get the. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get the
May
Pro one
yeah.
on.
Maybe some messages just appear within a given window of time.
Well,
So
it may depend on whether what version I have updated to, because I haven't updated this box in a little while. So it may very well depend on when you run updates. Does MOTD get updated or not? Um, so I did. I know the server has been kind of sitting there for a little while. I know it needed updates, so apt get update that came out as you would expect. But apt get upgrade or apt upgrade, sorry, apt upgrade um, gives me the everybody sees the use sudo apt auto remove to remove it, right? But
Yeah.
right under that is 5 hashes, the comment area, and it's got news about significant security updates, features, and services will appear here to raise awareness and perhaps tease our Linux. Speaking of
yeah,
the
because the
subreddit, right?
subreddit,
But
yes, the
and then this,
subreddit was the place where most of
And
the most vocal uh, backlash
right,
was
and
and I'm
that's on
glad
taking place.
2004.
this is 2004, and then the last line reads: "Use pro," and this is the most important line. This is why I don't think it's important to have to be upset about this. The last line reads: "Use pro config set apt underscore news equals false to hide this and future apt news." Now, the outrage is, how dare you make me set an option in a configuration file to not see this news? Um, but
It makes the outrage a little silly, though. I mean,
This is sort of the equivalent of when you start a GUI app for the first time. They show these tips or news, like for example, how LibreOffice shows you a random tip when you start, and you can just check a box saying that you don't want to see this again. It's
mhm,
basically the same. You see it once, and if you don't want to see it again, you just set it to not show up again.
yeah, yeah.
okay, so 20. 204, it gives me the following packages were automatically installed, no longer required, and then it's a bunch of stuff. And then use sudo apt auto remove to remove them. And then it goes right to the following packages have been kept back.
So I don't know if it only gives it to you sometimes or something like that, or after it's been a certain number of days since you've run the command. I don't know what it is, but I got it today, and I suppose if I were to upgrade these packages and run it all again, I wouldn't get it again. Um, but I guess yeah. So what's your take? I mean, nothing, nothing burger.
You know, I would prefer there be some sort of framework for conveying information to me that, because I imagine they might assume that they've got a sizable user base that's not going on Reddit or reading any blogs or anything, and as such, they probably won't be in touch with what's going on. Information that Canonical wants to send out to the average users.
Yeah.
So I would be in a way glad to see something like that.
Hmm.
Especially for server installs, because I got two servers back here running. If there's something I need to know, I'd like that to come up when I SSH in.
Right.
And I mean, you've got to you got to take these things seriously, or you have to try to understand what a company like Canonical wants to achieve with something like this. And it's not to try to sell somebody something; it's to convey information.
Yeah, I saw a
Well,
video on PeerTube. I can't remember what it was or who it was, but the general message was Ubuntu, even though they are a commercial entity, need to keep free and open source software and the way of doing things and everything number one as a priority. And I mean, I disagree. I absolutely they could do whatever they want because
yes,
it's
but
Linux,
even if even if you said you agree, people have to remember that the free in free and open source means free as in freedom. So just if something is free software and open source doesn't mean it should it doesn't mean it's not it doesn't mean it's a bad thing to monetize it, because what you have to share is the source code. So if you want to provide the source code for free for everyone to build the software for themselves, it you can charge money for pre-compiled binaries. You
right?
know, like for there are some projects that do that. For example, you know how Zorin OS has the Zorin OS Pro, which is what you get if you pay is a more well, not more polished but more featureful system that you could build yourself from the free
Mm.
version, but it's not locking any features behind a paywall. It's you pay to support the project and you get convenience back in return.
And
Zero Linux, a fairly new distro. Also, recently, the main desktop is KDE, but now there's Zero G, which is the GNOME version, which you can either buy the ISO or you can build an ISO for yourself for free. So it's not even about compiling packages; it's just building an ISO. So I think that's also getting convenience for your money
I think
and
people need
supporting
to
the project.
start recognizing how far we've come because of companies like Canonical. I can Companies that are making money leveraging open source technology are what has catapulted us into a serious position of play right now. I
Hmm.
can I can open up my laptop that's got an NVIDIA GTX card, install Steam, and I can play uh, Skyrim and Master Chief at 128 frames per second
Yeah,
on a Linux desktop. And
yeah.
that is all
Thanks.
because of companies that are leveraging open source technology to make money.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah,
thanks to Red Hat and Canonical building these stacks, paying developers to do what they do. Not everything, obviously, but I mean Glorious Eggroll is one of the most, I guess, prolific coders as far as it goes
Yeah.
for gaming, right? And while I don't know that Red Hat is directly funding him, he's just a Red Hat employee, but still you end up with this situation where, and on top of that, right, Valve. doing a lot of this work, bringing things that we've all wanted for a long time to us. Um, hmm, what do they call that? Biting the hand that feeds.
Well, consider some of the most important projects. I mean, and I understand this is a point of contention too for a lot of people, but some of the most important projects that make Linux work on modern machines as good as it does come from these companies like Red Hat. Your Pulse Audio, your Pipewire, and
Well, be careful. I saw a bunch of argumentation about Pulse and Pipewire, and someone had said,
System D. Yeah, well,
yeah,
yeah, I
well,
know there's.
someone had specifically said, why do we have Pipewire and Pulse when the previous system worked? Also, right? And the previous system did not work. It
Not
was
really.
terrible. And Pulse made things a whole lot better after a time where it was probably worse than ALSA, to be honest. But somebody had to adopt it and test it. That was Fedora. And then we had Pipewire. Now it's doing the same thing, but it still leverages everything underneath it. But it generally makes things a little bit better. And if it's rocky now, it won't be soon because we've got paid developers working on it.
That's the point right there. These are projects that require some pretty serious man hours put into them, to make them work well on as many systems as possible.
We don't always get to rely on superheroes like Hector Martin
Oh
and
gosh.
Lena for doing and Alyssa Rosenzweig for doing what they do. We like, yes, that is insanely valuable.
Yeah.
Insanely valuable. They're doing amazing work over there. But I mean, they luckily now they're self-funded, but we don't always get to rely on the superheroes like that. Sometimes you got to have a big company that puts ads when you're updating to fund some of this stuff.
But they're getting
Yeah,
paid too.
and yeah,
So
and you know,
I
if
mean,
you
but
look
there's
at
go ahead. Sorry.
sorry, yeah, and if you look at some of the community built non-corporate distributions, they also use a lot most of these uh, most of the same Linux stack. That is, even the Linux kernel is heavily funded by corporations.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of the day, all of this software that is in the Linux stack made by corporations is still free and open source, which is still way better than using a completely closed source operating system.
Mm.
So yes, they have a lot of influence, but because the same companies are the biggest users of Linux as a
Right.
whole. Like,
It is to their advantage to put their money where their mouth is and develop these things so that they can use what they want. Yeah.
yeah, the reason why using a terminal is such a good experience on Linux and not on Windows is because the companies want it to be a good experience because they use Linux mostly on the servers.
And also, it's kind of a pain to build a GUI application. But also, what you said.
Yeah. But speaking of GUI applications, a lot of people who just giving back to the original topic, a lot of people who are complaining about the advertisement in apt in the terminal was the thing they didn't like about it was that it's in the terminal and in their minds the terminal is sort of a safe place on Linux where they have a lot of control over the system. So I'm wondering whether people would have been less upset or more upset if it wasn't a message in apt but just a pop-up news window in Ubuntu. You log in and you see a pop-up window telling you about Ubuntu Pro. It's not in your terminal where you would expect it less, I guess, but in a way you could make the argument that it's even worse because now you're getting pop-ups on your system. So
Mm.
would it have been better or worse? I mean the
Well,
feedback.
a pop-up is worse, I think, if it's not triggered by you. What I think would happen is probably what Microsoft does, and just
Me
slips a little OneDrive in there, throw a little Microsoft Edge back on your desktop
that is
because we
so.
just updated, right? I mean, if
mm,
there
And then
were,
throws it in your tray and runs it in the background without you
okay,
knowing about it.
let's say it wasn't triggered by you logging in, but maybe if you opened the Ubuntu Software Center,
oh yeah,
it would give you as it as a pop-up.
oh
And
100%, not
and
a pop-up.
then
If it were like a little drop-down message underneath the title bar or something like that, that is not intrusive. The thing
yeah,
about these ads is if they are not intrusive, they're fine. I had this conversation elsewhere. This is why I run an ad blocker. When
Yeah.
you start yelling at me, when you play autoplay video, when you play audio, when you like scoot the X button around the screen so I can't close your advertisement, like those kinds of things are hostile. If your ad is not hostile, then I'll be happy to let them run off to the side. Do not waste my CPU cycles. Do not take up more RAM than what it takes to show an image and some text. Don't do that. And I'll allow them. They would be fine. But nobody on the web does this. And if they do, they're Google. And then the ad is for what was it like bitwardenapp.com? The very first result for Googling Bitwarden was malicious. They were trying to steal your username and password for your vault. And
Yeah, I've
if
seen one of these fake Google ads for a screenshot of it that was OBS,
yeah,
and
and
I
that gives
I'm
me the ammo I need to just keep running the ad blocker. I'm not even going to let the easy ones in because they have been shown to be malicious too, and I'm not going to risk it.
but it makes you wonder how those ads get to the Google page
No,
in the
we know
first place.
exactly. We know exactly how they get there. Let's not. I don't think we need to sugarcoat that at all. No human clicked that link and checked it out.
You could
That's how it
script
got there.
script something to like make 100,000 hits show up
Yeah, I
in the
mean,
SOC or something.
if a human clicked that link, it would have been obvious that the URL was incorrect,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter. It does not matter if a million people figure it out. If that one person is messed up by that particular ad because it's the top search result as an ad, but it's a top search result.
Yes, but Google is the biggest advertising company in the world, so they really shouldn't allow this to happen, something like this to happen in the
Mhm.
first place.
But I saw an argument that because they are so big, because they see so many ad applications, because there are so many coming in every single day, they don't have time
Like a
to look at
sleeping
all these
giant.
things. Right, right.
Yeah.
But
Maybe if it's a commonly known project, maybe there could be a system that checks for names, and they could have someone to verify that okay, it says OBS, and we know there's an OBS. There's a project called OBS that is quite famous. Maybe let's check if it's the same thing. If it's a lesser known project name, maybe it could just do what it does now. But if it's a what I'm saying is spoofing using the names of using names that are very similar to big projects should be something that Google should have a system in place to check
yeah,
for.
I think there need to be humans in the pipeline to check. Oh no, Google will make 1 billion less dollars this year because they had to pay people to vet their advertisements. Yet you have other people, the users of this service, not having their passwords leaked out all over the internet because of it. I mean,
Is there a report button under those?
yes, of course there is. And of course it
Okay.
gets taken down in hours. But how many people Google search in an hour? Millions.
That's
And
why I evangelize on this stuff. There's never going to be a replacement for you watching what you do on the internet. I don't I hate this expectation that some people have that since I'm sitting at a machine inside my house with the doors locked, that, I've got some reasonable expectation of safety. No, you got to watch what you do on these on the internet and things like that. And look at the URLs, it's worth taking a little bit of time to learn the basics of keeping yourself safe online.
it's
And
all well and good to say that, but I think and you're talking to the right people. The people that listen to this
yeah, no, I
podcast are going to
know.
be
Yeah,
like,
I
"You're damn right, Bill. That's exactly what we're going to do
Yeah.
and I will check every single URL because we do." But how many people do you think that do the Google search that also just happen to be the slice of the demographic that would listen to us or to any security podcast or to
That's an
any
awful
Linux?
slim Venn diagram
It
right
is
there.
it. Yes. I mean, those might as well be two separate circles, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing though, is that people are hurt by these
Yeah,
things,
they are.
but Google still makes their billion, their extra billion because that they someone paid for that ad. They're not going to get a refund on that ad because, oh, well, your ad was deemed to be malicious. We're going to refund you. That's not how that works. I'm sure there's a clause in the ad thing that says, your ad will run, and if it goes against our code, we take it down. You still paid us.
I wonder if they would argue that it wouldn't matter how many mitigations they put in place. There's always going to be some kind of elite hacker out
Well,
there
that's
that'll,
that's they're protecting their profits. Of course they would say that. But
yeah,
I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for humans in the pipeline
yeah.
because humans will make mistakes, and I get that. But let's not pretend that there's a huge amount of scrutiny going on here because it happens again and again. And bitwardenapp.com, really? Really? Well, I mean, what Norbert was saying is true. If it
Yeah,
says
there.
Bitwarden in the name, maybe take a look at it.
Yeah,
Verify that it's actually from Bitwarden.
yeah, because there are a lot of URLs that maybe don't look suspicious, but they are just not the official one. For example, if I want to download OBS, the website is obsproject.com. But if I don't know that from memory, maybe I would assume that it's an org because it's a nonprofit, it's an open source project.
Yeah.
And so if I want to download OBS and I don't know the exact URL, and maybe I find a fake URL that looks legitimate because it's not a long, complicated, or cleverly mistyped URL. Maybe even someone who is very knowledgeable in these things could be fooled.
Yeah. I mean, obs-proj.com. I mean, the stuff like that. That is the kind of thing that will get
Yeah,
past these advertisers, though.
And
yeah,
You
but
you
get into the
get those
pool.
in emails too. I see them all the time where
Yeah,
they're
of course.
trying to that because it doesn't take much to put together a relatively convincing website with some ads on there, that click you off into some sort of keylogger somewhere.
I
To
was posting the Bitwarden thing. If you'd looked at them left to right, the only indication that it was a different website was the URL. And I'm telling you, people are blind to it
yeah,
as it was intended. You talk to the founder, Tim Berners-Lee. No one was ever meant to type in https:// anything. He called it the web for a reason. There would be links to click on. There would be human readable information to do that with. So people being blind to the URL now is as intended, but being blind to the URL will get you in a lot of trouble.
it absolutely will. But I gotta wonder if Tim Berners-Lee would, if he ever intended the web to evolve into what it is now and the direction that it's heading currently. If that,
He didn't. Nobody did because nobody could have predicted.
no,
I mean, no one can see the future, right? I mean, the web will be different in 10 years, and no one will have pegged it down to very specifics, right? Like we can guess, right? I mean, there's a lot of money to be made on the internet, so we can make guesses, but I don't think anybody's going to get it exactly right. But just as when he invented this thing, there's who knew that YouTube would exist? Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good though. Those ads are
when it
annoying though.
when it comes to figuring out whether a link is legitimate, I usually think probably the most simple sounding one is the real one. For example, like I said, it's obsproject.com. Maybe I would have assumed that it's very short, maybe that just obs or something. But maybe
Oh
that
yeah.
was taken. Maybe that was taken like how Steam.com was taken. So Valve had to use steampower.com. So I guess there are cases where that's not the case. Leo, do you know what the website is for downloading Fedora? What's the URL?
get
It's like
Fedora
fedoraproject.org, isn't it, or
or,
something like that?
It's getfedora.org.
yeah, get
I just
Fedora.
I just tried fedoraproject.org, and apparently it redirects to getfedora.org. So I would have just assumed it's fedora something, but it's
Yeah.
because it's getfedora.org. So yeah, sometimes the most illogical sounding URL is not the actual URL, just because maybe the simplest one is taken, or they just for example, recently went to to Framework's website for the Framework laptop, and the URL is frame.work. It's a
Oh
clever
right.
URL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
a clever URL, but it's not the first one I would have guessed.
Right. Well,
So
to be
yeah,
clear, fedoraproject.org does exist and does host a lot of Fedora Linux based stuff like the wiki and help and stuff like that. But it's
yeah,
not where
but
you go to
yeah,
get Fedora. Yeah, to
yeah,
your point, that's not where that is.
yeah. So yeah, because there are just hundreds of projects and their websites, you just nobody should be expected to memorize all those URLs. At the end of the day, we have to rely on Google showing the right URL at the top.
As
But
I don't know that Tim Berners-Lee meant for search engines, but he certainly meant for something akin to them. Uh, yeah,
indexing, just
nobody was
indexing,
meant.
yeah.
Well, ChatGPT is going to solve all of this for us because
Nah.
it's going to be intelligently checking all of these URLs before we go to them, and they're
A
going
lot
to
of
send drones out to shoot the people down, and yeah,
A lot of the times when you search for something specific in Google, you get the ad for it, but then right under that you get the non-ad version of the organic result. And it's the same URL, just the ad one has trackers included in the link.
Hmm.
So but maybe sometimes it's not the ad one is a malicious one, and then the first organic result is the real website. So I guess a very good the best practice for avoiding clicking on the spoof links is just don't click on the very first one that is listed that is an ad. Click on the first one that is
No,
not an ad.
no.
or use Pi-hole.
Install an ad blocker on your browser. Use Pi-hole. Remove them.
If you got Pi-hole,
Do
that
not even give
they
yourself
add
the avenue to make a
yeah,
mistake. Don't even do it
use Pi-hole. It's worth it. Pi-hole
because
with Pi-hole running, you can't even click on that link. It
yeah,
won't
it'll
work.
it'll get you to like this weird blank page. But
Yep.
that's the thing, right? Like we all are in
Mm.
need of coffee sometimes and aren't running on all cylinders, and we can all make a mistake on the
Yeah.
web. So
Absolutely.
not even the most astute person, security based, whatever, can get. You can't say that they're never going to make a mistake. Not ever. You can have the best security posture ever. You are still human. So instead of expecting yourself to make the right decision every single time, remove them. That is why I remove them
Yeah,
because I
I
don't
do.
even trust myself, and I think I do pretty good on the web.
Or maybe
I do.
just put the right mitigation in place, like the ad blocker. That way, to
Right.
get around that, you have to take extra steps.
Yep.
That way, by default, you're blocking all these things,
Y-
and you would have to go out of your way to
Use Brave,
circumvent that.
use Vivaldi, use Firefox. That's
I
the
do.
answer. And if you use Firefox, add the additional uBlock origin on top of it for
Yep.
even better.
Yeah, I do have a uBlock origin. What's interesting is I just did a Google search and to check whether I have ads, and I don't. But
Of
I
course not.
never had I never had a moment when I realized, oh, there's no ads on Google, because I just somehow I mean, at one point I wasn't using uBlock origin, so there were ads. But
Mhm.
when I just started using it, I didn't have a conscious realization that the ads are just gone, because I was good at ignoring them before,
Yeah,
because
because
they are not shiny big letter ads. They just fit right in with the results, which is the idea.
yeah, definitely. But to Bill was talking about ChatGPT. I do want to talk about that for a minute. Because I know we were going to talk about origin stories. I don't guess we have enough time this time, but
No, probably not. Maybe
we'll
episode
do
3.
origin stories one day. We'll
We
get there
promise.
when we can get ourselves to shut up for a little while.
I think most
Then
people know us. We had over 130 downloads on that last on our episode 1. I don't know how
cool.
that happened, but um
It was all bots, man. It was all bots. I
I
I
think
I spent $10 on a bot thing, so it just downloaded them.
there
It's
you
what
go.
happened. Yeah,
I know. I think people saw, "Oh, Leo," and then they went
maybe.
and downloaded it. Yeah.
But
Uh
so on ChatGPT, so you may not get my whole origin story, but you'll get a little bit about me. Now I'm an educator, so and one of the things that I teach is Linux, and so I have to write curriculum for testing people on whether or not they can say pass the Linux Plus test or something when they get done with the class. Right? That's my job, and the coolest thing I have found is that as long as you know the vocabulary, that's the hard part. That's the one building block that you need. You can use Chat GPT to pretty much ace my class. I have you writing bash scripts, and I'm talking full blown bash scripts that query the system for current statuses of something, right? There, and in my mind, especially someone that doesn't even know what a script is in the first place, right, are coming in and not really knowing. It's a bit of a slog to figure out how to do it. Enter ChatGPT. I straight up just asked it for what I'm asking the students for in this lab. Oh yeah, about 30 seconds. It had it
Okay,
it
so
had it pegged.
So
is it a
if you
net
were
positive though? Because
Yeah,
does that mean the human being is extended beyond that now?
yeah.
We can do other things. We can focus our minds on other things and let the machines do the mundane rote work.
I've got coworkers that are running around scared that this is going to impact their employability. And I mean, in some ways it will, right? Because now we don't really have to think about that kind of thing. There's
Hmm.
still value in knowing what ChatGPT knows, right? I mean, there's still value in knowing why a script is the way that it is, and I think you really do need to dive down
Yeah.
and learn about that stuff. But if you're at a job, and this is what everybody ties it back to, right? Like, well, can you do that at a job? Why wouldn't you do that at a job? Why wouldn't you ask ChatGPT to make money? Why wouldn't you do that? Everybody would do that. So after you get out of my class, after you skirted the entire thing using ChatGPT, you're now really good at ChatGPT. So when you get a job somehow, right, because you still have to get through the interview process, right? But let's say that you had ChatGPT in your pocket and you use that to answer all the interview questions and you got hired. What would it matter if at the end of the day you're making this company millions of dollars by using ChatGPT to do your job?
Right.
Why does that matter at all? It is a net positive because of that. Now, when the company figures out they can just use ChatGPT and replace you, not so great. But
I
but
yeah,
think
I
people are insecure about their own marketability as an employee, and they're afraid of being passed over instead of saying, okay, well, then I'm going to go learn to do something else.
it's
Yeah,
sort of like the next level of having a calculator in your pocket,
it
because
is.
if you
it's a few
can have a
levels.
calculator, why wouldn't you use a calculator?
Yeah,
Learning a
By a
lot of
fact by to Bill's point, by a factor of 10, right?
yeah.
Like this is calculator to the 10th power.
Yeah, because in school you learn a lot of fairly complex maths, and it's not because they expect you to remember all of that 10 years
Right.
later. It's so you can
Critically think.
no yes, it's so you can develop you can get a mathematical thinking, you can develop your mind.
And that's what I mean about it's valuable to know why the script is the way that it is. Even though ChatGPT just gave you the answer, you need to go back in because ChatGPT isn't perfect, but it's damn good. And you can get that script 90% of the way there. And all you got to do as an admin is say, "Oh, that's not going to work on our distribution. So let me tweak that a little bit, but this script is good to go after that." I
So you're
mean,
saying that if I went to ChatGPT and told it to write me a bash script where it would output the 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 total memory, the free memory, the use memory, the cache memory,
oh yeah,
and
it's already done.
yeah,
That's
and
easy.
maybe
I'll give you the script it gave me because that's what I asked it.
and then say maybe print it out in a nice ASCII art pie chart. It would
I
also
did
be able to do that,
I didn't
I
test out
assume.
ASCII art, but it certainly gave it to you in an easily human readable format. You might ask it about ASCII art. I'm sure it could do it, but that's the thing about ChatGPT, right? Like, you've got English professors and history professors and psychology professors, things like that, really worried about this. And I mean, you kind of have to be. But it's not just English. It knows Bash. It knows C++. Any language. If it is a language, programming language is included. It knows that language. It knows PowerShell.
Yeah,
It knows Rust.
you can tell ChatGPT to emulate a Linux command line, and then if you were when in a way that you would give it commands and it should print the output, and it does that. I've heard on a podcast someone trying that, and if you say like create a new file and then do an ls, it will list the file that you created.
Yeah.
So you can have an imaginary temporary fire system there.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is that people were so focused on the image generators that most people didn't even suspect or expect a language model to suddenly pop up. And
Oh
now
man, I
everyone's
was
so
expecting this 10 years ago, man. I
no,
knew the robots were coming for my job.
yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, people who haven't really been paying attention, but they just learn about the image generators from news, from mainstream news, and now that ChatGPT is out, a lot of you can barely hear about the image generators in the news. Well, unless something
Well,
big
because
happens.
before image generators were just taking the artists' jobs, right? But now ChatGPT is taking all the thinkers' jobs and all of the command line technical jobs as
Yeah.
well. You need a program written, you need a paper written, you need some kind of research done. ChatGPT's got it. It's done.
Yes, but ChatGPT will be confidently wrong. Is that people say people who
And that's the point.
yeah
That's the 90%. That's where us humans live now.
Mm.
That's where we get to show our expertise. Until ChatGPT can pretty much be 100% right 100% of the time, there will always be a need for technically minded humans or humans well versed in the humanities to be able to say, yeah, that's historically correct. No, that is not a good command line argument or something like that, right?
yeah
You always will need that human element until you don't. And then when you don't, then we live in a utopia, right? And then everybody has money. Well, actually, money would be gone, and then we could just go to the store and grab a papaya and eat papaya.
yeah it's like a few years
Post
back here in
scarcity.
yeah it's like here a few years
Papaya's a
back
filler. That was a bad example. It's just a papaya and
What
mango, right?
and
popped in
mango.
your
Yeah,
head? Papaya
But,
popped in your
okay,
head.
it was actually a movie. It was Coco, and
yeah.
then I cannot get what is her name? She's a very famous Mexican artist. Anyway, but like there's this whole scene when at the very end of it, it's a papaya, and then so that's just stuck in my head for some reason.
You can use ChatGPT to generate code, and
Yes,
then it does like 90% of the work for you, and
yes,
you go in and you fix the code so that it actually works.
yes.
So you just did 90% of the work by using ChatGPT, and then you can fine tune the code. You can polish the
Exactly.
code. Yeah, it's not putting people out of a job completely. It
No, it
just
is. I
yeah
mean,
It'll put the
it's
mediocres out of
yeah
work.
yeah,
it's like
Okay.
it's like self-driving. A few years back here in Budapest, we had our first we have 4 metro lines, and the most recent one is now driverless. And at first there had to be people sitting at the front so they can monitor everything is fine. And then even the driver's cabin, what I would call it, were removed. So you are on the metro, the underground train, and you can literally look at the front and the back windows because there is not even a driver space.
oh
But
yeah, that's cool.
the people who would have been the drivers previously, now they are probably sitting somewhere monitoring the system. So it's it's yeah, the driver's job is gone, but there's a new jobs
Yeah.
opening as like technicians and people who are sort of organizing the system and making sure everything works.
And that's the
So
way it has always been. When the car was invented, people threw their hands up in the air. What
My
are we gonna do?
horses.
Oh, what the horses? The guys that are feeding the horses and shoeing the horses. What are they gonna do? And then we
Find another
evolved, and
job.
new jobs come along. I think Chat. If I was to be optimistic, which I really, really want to be, I would say that this is going to be a tool that will do the heavy lifting, the mundane work. I- Let human beings do what human beings are good at, and let machines do what machines are good at.
Yeah.
And then we'll come up with something better in the end. Is some people gonna be left behind at first? Yeah, it's your responsibility as a person that's trying to maintain a career to make yourself as marketable as possible. And I think that holds true in any job,
So
in
what you're
any line
trying
of
to
work.
say is Ubuntu needs to use Chat GPT to write better advertisements for the command line.
That is exactly
I
what we're
knew
trying
it.
to get at.
We're on the same wavelength. I knew it. I
And
knew it.
I'm glad we got there together.
yeah, maybe AI could be used for things like writing invoices, for example. That is sort of a mundane job, but it is different on a case by case
Hospital bills.
basis.
Well, we better wrap it up, guys. What do you think?
I think it's pretty good.
Did we beat it to death?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we did.
Oh, my
Um,
horses.
It's gonna
Yes,
happen
but
all
oh
over
my
again.
gosh.
This
yes,
is a
We
renaissance.
we
yes, but
appreciate.
horses are still around. And
They
even
are.
when when TV and radio came out, people were thinking it's
There
the
was
end
a
of
song
books.
written about it,
It's the
Norbert.
end
There
of
was a
Yeah.
books. Yeah,
song.
books
Radio
are still
or
around.
video killed the radio star.
That's it. And yet we
No,
have Spotify.
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, video. There's I've seen a webcomic about you know video killed the radio star. A video, a person labeled video burying the radio star, and then a person labeled podcast 10 years later digging it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've been trying to explain to people that don't know what a podcast is. Like, well, it's just the old radio show
But on the
thing,
internet.
but
Yeah.
it's on demand and you can do whatever you want with it. Anyway, we're gonna get out of here. Where can we find you,
Or
Leo?
not.
You can find me at Leo Chavez on Twitter and at Leo Chavez at mastodon.social.
Ooh,
You can find me also. You can find me on Mastodon as well at odoben, odoben, at c.im. That's the letter c.im. I wanted to find an instance that has a very short URL.
I guess I'll go ahead and throw my Mastodon in there then at WC Hauser 3, the number 3 that is, at bostodon.org. I don't
That
have
would
a fancy
hurt
one.
if it's you a full-size Mastodon at us.
Got
You know, the word the podcast is very interesting because it came from iPod, but now iPods are essentially phased out. So
yeah.
the
We
word podcast
took
stuck
it
without
from them.
iPods. Yeah.
I
Wasn't it
can't.
originally called the webcast?
Ooh,
Yeah,
got
that
me.
doesn't sound as cool though.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching, listening. However you consume us, we appreciate it. We love you. We're gonna keep doing this. We have a lot of fun. I do. I guess I should just talk for myself.
If you're gonna consume me, medium rare, please.
Oh man, you get to be my age. You got to take it any way you can get it. Anyway, we'll see you in a fortnight, folks. Until then, I've been Bill.
Where you still are. And I'm still Norbert.
Cool.
And I'm Leo.
See you, folks.